Alright, what's up guys? So I'm doing another tournament report today. Went to um, another locals yesterday. Same one I usually go on Monday, and the turnout's been generally pretty good. So I've been enjoying going out there and playing against people, playing against different decks, and yeah, just having a fun time playing Magic. Honestly, um, for plans on going to any big major tournaments and stuff like that, not really. Maybe if there's something near me, I might try to enter a tournament, maybe like a 1K or something like that. But I don't know about any GP Vegas or anything like that right now. No plans yet. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've just enjoyed playing the game at locals and just interacting with people and kind of just playing uh, somewhat competitive Magic. So yeah, I went to a tournament yesterday, and I'm also gonna probably go to another tournament on Friday. And it's gonna be a smaller one, but a couple of my friends are joining in, and a couple of them that haven't played Modern in quite a while. They're getting back into it, and they're joining in and bringing other people in. So it'll be a fun time. I think most of us are playing Control. I know my friend picked up a couple of Emperors. My other friend also picked up Emperors. Like we're all playing somewhat like a blue-white Control style deck. Kind of funny that we all like playing Control. Control is one of those decks that you start off, you start playing Magic, you run into it, you hate it, and then you eventually become the player that plays the Control deck. So, um, yeah, so we'll see how Friday's tournament go, and I'm expected to play against some of my friends probably, but they already know had plenty of practice against each other. We know how our play styles are and stuff like that, so nothing's gonna really change there. Yeah, but before I digress some more, let's talk about yesterday's tournament. So just a quick overview. It was 4 rounds with 16 players, which is a pretty nice even split there. So you can after 4 rounds you should have one undefeated. So 16 players, 4 rounds. Pretty easy peasy there. And so I ended up getting third place actually. So I think first place and second place they end up splitting, which would put me third. If they didn't split, if there wasn't undefeated, there was a good chance that I probably would have gotten second. But that's okay. So I'm not really here for the prizing anyways. So I'm just here for more practice than anything else. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the rounds that, or let's talk about the decks that I played against and go from there. So, game one, I played against, I think it was Mardu, I want to say Karn Control. Mardu Planeswalker Karn Control. I'll talk about that one later because that was an interesting deck to play against. Round two, I play against. Round two, I play against Murktide. There you go. So round two against Murktide. Round three, I play against Wilderness Rec Nexus. And then round four, I play against Yawgmoth. Um, you know, Combo Yawgmoth. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the games, and hopefully you find some of it entertaining and maybe learn something. So yeah, game one, I play against a Mardu Karn Liberator style deck, I guess. Yeah, it was running, I think, Prismatic Endings for removal. It was running Thoughtseize. It was running Liliana of the Veil, or I think it's Liliana of the Veil. Yeah, the Veil, Karn Liberator, a bunch of artifacts, and I forgot what the red did. I think red for Blood Moon and stuff like that, and a couple other cards. So, game one was quite interesting actually. Game one, we were pretty much neck to neck. Like I think he goes like Lily turn 3 and starts upticking her, and it was only he went first. So he goes Lily turn 3. I'm only on my second land, so he goes Lily turn 3, uptick it. I decide to jam a Snapcaster I had in hand, so I just flash in the Snapcaster at the end of his turn and proceed to try to attack Lily down to keep her under control. And then my turn, I think I just leave mana open or do something with my 3 mana. I don't Don't quite remember. But turn 4, he goes Karn. I think I have like a counter spell or something like that. So he goes Karn. I counter spell his Karn. So we're trading right now with Lily versus my Snapcaster, and I think turn 5 or 6 he slaps down another Karn, and at this time I didn't quite have no, maybe he does slam that. I don't remember if it was turn 4 or maybe turn 5. I know one of those turns he did slam down Karn, and he grabbed like liquid metal coating and started popping my lands. So I think I was on 4 land. He popped one of my lands, so I was down to 3 lands. I think that was turn 5. Yeah, turn 5 he slapped down another Karn he had in hand. Yeah, I didn't have another counter spell. So he starts killing off my land, and me and Lily are still fighting it off, or my Snapcaster and Lily are still beating each other up. And eventually we're like down to a couple cards. I think I do another land, and I prismatic ending the Karn for 4, and eventually I think I was able to kill the Lily with this, and still had the Snapcaster on board. And don't quite remember how the game goes, but I think it's a little bit more back and forth. I think he does get rid of my Snapcaster somehow. I think he bolts it, because I know he was playing red, but I think he bolts it, and then I don't remember if I saw Blood Moon game 1. I think I do. I think I do see a Blood Moon game 1, but I had enough natural basics on the board already, so Blood Moon didn't really do too much to me. I think I eventually like bounced it back with like a Teferi, and eventually I'm able to resolve my 5-mana Teferi, and I think that's when he knew the game wasn't gonna go in his way, and he decided to scoop it up game 1, and we go to game 2. Game 2 he sides some stuff. For me, I don't remember what I really sided. Honestly, I think I sided Outworldly. I think some Aether Gust and these for sure. I don't know if I put in Subtleties. I might have put them in as for bodies. I think I do put them in, if I recall correctly. So this is a bit of a overkill here, but Aether Gust was namely to fight against Blood Moon. That's mainly it, honestly. Because with Aether Gust, I can still play the game even if I'm only on one blue source. I should be able to still play the game if I have an Aether Gust. So I suspect that I play Aether Gust. These, I know he was playing Planeswalkers. I didn't see any creatures at all, if anything. And so I put in the subtleties for those. Same thing here. Anti-creature, or sorry, anti-planeswalker. That's in there, and marches for all of his artifacts that he was playing. So he's playing a bunch of like, Pithing Needles. He had some other stuff. I don't remember if I saw Chalice of the Void the first game, but game 3 or game 2 he actually chaliced me a few times, and yeah, let's talk about that one real quick. So game 2 he goes first. I think I get a pretty slow opening, but he goes. We trade back and forth. I don't remember exactly what happened, because it was kind of a long game, or like a game where a lot of things happen out of sequence, and I just don't quite remember what happened. But I know he does attempt to. He gets 2 Chalices of the Voids on the board at one point. He has Chalices for 1 and Chalices for 2, so that would turn off like a majority of my deck. But fortunately for me, I have Marches and I have Prismatic Ending. So I think I go Prismatic Ending on one of the Void. I go for the big one first, namely because I needed to turn my counter spells on. So I go for Void at Chalice or Prismatic for 3, because he has Chalice in 1 and 2. So if I do anything less than that, it's just gonna get countered. So I go for 3, kill the biggest Chalice, and let my my Snapcasters, my counter spells, my Dolmen Vetoes, let them turn on live. And I think I was eventually able to bounce the other Chalice with Teferi. But the Chalices were definitely annoying to deal with. Like I had to kind of play around them. But luckily these, because they're X, which is great. Allows me to get around the chalices pretty well. So I definitely did like the prismatics and the marches in there. They work pretty well. I think he goes eventually. I think he plays slaughtering pack. I think something like that, where he looked at my entire deck and exiled all my 3-mana Teferi. So maybe I didn't get Teferi out on that game too. I probably didn't. I think he slaughter packs me, kills all my Teferis. So I was playing 4 of them, so he removes all of it. But I eventually able to kind of because I drew a bunch of prismatics, and I think I drew a bunch of marches. I was able to just kind of combat his board and kind of pick away at it while he wasn't really putting too much of a threat on me. I don't think he was playing Urza Sagas. I didn't see any. If he was, then he could have applied pressure with the Urza Sagas, but I did not see any Urza Sagas. So I was just using these just to kill off the artifacts. Like he got chalices, pithing needle, liquid coating. I forget he had some other mana not mana rock, sorry, other artifacts. I don't quite remember their names, but those are the main ones I saw. But eventually I was able to slap down the Emperor, and then I started using the token that the Emperor generated and kind of slowly beat him down with it. And I think that's where I ran away with the game, where I don't think he could have dealt with the Emperor on the board, plus the 3 or the token that was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think it was just like every other turn I made 1 token, pumped the other token, made 1 token, pumped the other token. I kept going back and forth essentially between the Emperor's 2 abilities, and I think that kind of just overran him. And I think he was playing. I know for sure he was playing Ensnaring Bridge, but I think he might have taken it out because it wasn't really worth it, because he knows if he's playing against control, I don't really do anything to attack. Like, yeah, I will have a Snapcasters, I will have something to attack, but not that much. Like I'm still mostly a spell slinging deck more than a creature based deck. So I think he sides it out, but I'm not too sure if he does search for it off of the Karn. I know he searches like liquid and pithing needle off of the Karn, but I don't quite remember if he get the bridge out again. I don't think he does. 'Cause I think I see the bridge the first game, but I bounced it with Teferi, and then I don't think he ever casted the bridge again at that point. And I think he just pitched it away with the Liliana. Either way, I do beat him. I 2-0 him for that game. So yeah, we had a small discussion afterwards of what could have been done, what should have been, what he could have done against me and stuff like that. And yeah, it was a good match. My opponent was cool and pretty respectful and everything, and I thought we had a pretty good match there. So game 2, I play against Murktide. So Murktide, generally I would say I'm favored to win for the most part, unless they run away with Ragavan. If I can keep Ragavan in check and maybe Darcy, for the most part I will just kind of win, unless they had a ton of the card I fear most in their deck is honestly Spell Pierce and Mystic Disputes, because they're just so hard for me to play around. Like obviously Dispute is not as strong because they can't really dispute this thing, or a Prismatic Ending, but they can always dispute my Counterspell. They can always dispute my Archmage Charms or my Teferi, which unfortunately have blue in them. And Pierce, for me, Pierce is like my worst nightmare. Pierce hits basically most of my deck. Obviously, it doesn't hit my Snapcasters, but the trade-off there, is that if they have 1 blue mana open, I have to figure out what they're trying to pierce or bait a certain card out. But yeah, game 1, I think I drew so much removal, and my opponent had to keep trying to cast his Murktide over and over. I think I bounced that Murktide maybe 3 times back to his hand with like Teferi and some other stuff with like Jace and whatnot. And he was just exiling his graveyard left and right, trying to stick a Murktide onto the board to act as a threat. I think all of his Darcys and his monkeys I were able to remove with the March and the prismatic ending, so they weren't too bad. I think he does get quite a lot of advantage because of not prismatic, expressive alliteration. That's the one card that kind of keeps him in the game, but unfortunately, I don't think he was able to kind of stick the Murktide, the threats onto the board as I kept them clear off the board. I think eventually it kind of comes down to him having like 1 or 2 cards left in hand. He does stick a Murktide, but I had like 4 or 5. I think I had like 4 or 6 cards in my hand, and I had a Solitude, so I just decided it's just a Solitude it away, give him some health. But I had a Celestial Colonnade, and I think I had like an Emperor token or something that was just gonna kind of beating him down and clocking him. So game 1 goes to me. Game 2, I know for sure I'm expecting like Blood Moons, maybe Magnus of the Moon. I suspect that he's gonna probably side out some of his Murktides, go for a lower curve, and I think that's exactly what happened. But I prepared it for myself too. I think I do March here, Aether Gustus for sure. This card is supposed to be Void Ren, but I haven't got my Void Ren yet, so I think I throw in Sanctifiers, and some Kaya Guile, and some Resting Peace just to hit the graveyard some more. And I think even then, the game was pretty close. We went back and forth a few times. We were kind of running into time because our game 1 took so long. But I was eventually able to put down a 5-mana Teferi, and sorry, I totally messed that one up. I think game 2 he took it actually, so I think we went 2-1. Game 2, I forgot what happens, but I think he gets down the Magnus of the Moon that I couldn't remove because I didn't have the right colors in my lands, and I didn't have the right basics. So I think I just scoop up on game 2 after he resolves Magnus of the Moon, and I just couldn't really answer it. Plus, I think he had Monkey and Dragon Rage Chandler that just kept attacking me. That I didn't draw any removal. So that game went to him, I think, game 2. But game 3, it was where we're kind of running a little bit short on time. I think we had like 10 minutes left to complete game 3 as we started it. But the game went by pretty quickly. We knew what we were doing. We just kept passing back and forth. Turn 5, I was able to slap down the Teferi, 5-mana Teferi. He didn't have a grave. I think I had Rest in Peace on the board on top with 5-mana Teferi. So his Unholy Heats weren't going to kill my Teferi. He would have to like bolt it twice or do something. So I think he does try that. I think he dashes a Ragavan, hits Teferi for 2, tries to bolt it. I think I have a Thorn's Veto. I negate the veto, and I go back to my turn. I draw with the Teferi, and I think I was able to kind of draw my threats, like I think my Solitudes and stuff like that, with mana open, and I think I start drawing my counter spells and stuff like that too. And so the final game was decided within that 10 minutes. I think we go to like turn 6 maybe, turn 7 before he decides to give it to me, because while I may not have beaten him in time, he knows, like, per the board presence, he had like 1 card in hand, a couple lands. I had a full board plus like 3 or 4, 5 cards in hand, and for sure I was just gonna win as the game went on. So yeah, we ended the game there, so it was a 2-1 victory for me. Yeah, so it wasn't too bad. In terms of the Cyborg, I think I just already talked about that, so I'm not gonna go through that. Now this next game, I haven't had practice against this deck quite a lot, and it's against Wilderness Reclamation. And the last time I played against this style of deck was back when it was still on Arena, back in I think M19 or whatever year that was. So it's been a long time. So there's 2 versions of the deck. There's one version where you wreck, and you're playing a control style deck with a bunch of Nexus of Fate, and you just basically, that's how you win the game, right? So you just get extra turns, you beat your opponent down, blah blah blah, that sort of deal. And the second version is the sort of like a Simic version, where you try to use Frill Mystics, you use the Wolf, the Alpha Wolf, I forget what it's called, and then you know you kind of beat your opponent down with always having mana open, always able to like just pump threats onto the board and protect it with counter spells and stuff like that. So the game starts, you know, he goes a bunch of trinomes and stuff like that. He resolves one wilderness, and I kind of bounce it back with Teferis, and like I was playing really cautious. I think I made a lot of misplays and misreading his deck because I wasn't quite sure how aggressive I needed to be. If I knew he was playing the control variant of the Wilderness Rec deck, I think I should have been more aggressive. But I wasn't. I was kind of holding back, kind of seeing what he was trying to do, and I think that was my undoing. Is I gave him too much time to set up because he was able to eventually get out more Wilderness Recs plus Memory Deluge. So Wilderness Rec with Memory Deluge is a pretty good combo from what I've seen. So you can cast it once it goes to the grave. If you can untap your lands with the Wilderness Rec. If you have two of them on the board, you can tap for like 8 mana, and you just like can cast it again. So like you know you can draw almost 4 cards, dig through 14 cards of your deck, or sorry, 11 cards of your deck. So that was pretty strong. Like I was not expecting that to kind of like happen, and eventually I think I just get overwhelmed. But it was a really close game though. I think he was down to only 3 or 4 life left, and I had a Celestial Colonnade plus a Hall of the Storm Giant, but I didn't really have any resources left. My mana lands were the only cards I had. He had like 7 cards in hand. He was at 3 life. He had a 1/1 Shark token, but the problem is now is that he started casting Nexus of Fate. So at this point, my fate was kind of sealed. Ha ha ha. Just because he had Castle Vantress, so he's able to just grind through his deck multiple times to try to just draw into the Nexus of Fate and just get a extra turn over and over and over. Yeah, both me and him were at like 3 health, but he had a Shark token on the board. I had no way of removing it. Yes, I could maybe block with my Colonnade or something like that, but I can only activate it once, you know, and especially if he gets multiple turns, I might not be able to get another turn. And I knew he was playing Fire and Ice, so that might not even have done anything. If I activate Celestial to block the 1/1 Shark token, he'd probably just tap it down with the Fire and the Ice, and so it was kind of a hard place. If I had one more turn, I might have been able to beat him, but maybe not because he does have Fire and Ice. If I try to attack with a Colonnade or attack with a Hall of the Storm Giant, he probably would just tap it down. Plus, he had a bunch of mana, so I don't think I was gonna beat him. It was really close, but didn't quite do it. So I think game 1 I should have been more aggressive. I held back thinking it was the Thrill Mystic variant, and the Thrill Mystic variant, if you play really aggressive into them, you'll lose really quickly. Like you want them to cast stuff on your turn and counter it, so that way, you know, you don't have to deal with a wolf on the board or like the Thrill Mystic on the board that can just beat you down. So I was just playing really really reserved, and I think that's what killed me there. If I played more aggressive, I should have tried to clock down my opponent a little bit quicker. But anyways, we move on to game 2. For this game, I just didn't quite know what to decide, so I took out like most of, if not all of my creature hate, because he only really is playing Shark Typhoon as his main threat. He does have some bolts for sure. He does have Renin 6. He does have you know, counter spells, Archmage Charms, the Wilderness Recs for sure, Fire and Ice, and Memory Deluge. So there's a couple of things I had to deal with, and I decided to try to deal with the Recs more so than anything else. So I think I go Veto, Aether Gus's. I think I go for the March to try to remove the Wilderness, even though this is not that great, you know. If you're gonna spend 5 mana to remove it, if you can spend maybe 3 mana plus a white card to remove it, then great. But I think I tried that, and some Rest in Peace. Keep in mind, I just received this card today, so I did not have this card in my side deck. This card is supposed to be a dam, but I want to try this card out. I want to try out Farewell. It's been working really well on Explorer. In the main, I don't think I would main this card, but I think in the side deck it might be funny. So I am trying this out in the side deck just to see how that works out, and I'll report on that when I get the chance to. Um, but yeah, so I think I signed all of this in. So the game one goes, I get a pretty bad hand. I think I have the mulligan, and you know, so like I'm down the card, and he's already up some cards, and we play it out. However, what was unexpected was that every time I try to resolve a Teferi, he always had a counter spell up, or he always seemed to have some sort of counter up more than I did, and I was kind of missing like one or two colors too. I was missing another source of white, so my game plan was already kind of slow, and I was missing another white source. If I had another white source, I think I could have came out on top, but I was unable to resolve a Teferi, backed up with the Dovin's Veto, which was the counterspell I had in my hand, and was at 5 mana, but I had only one white source, unfortunately, and that kind of set me back, and I wasn't able to resolve the Teferi. If I resolve Teferi, then obviously, you know, that's Wilderness Rec's main weakness is Teferi. If you can slap a Teferi down, they can't activate any of their cards at the end of the turn, except for like a Castle Vantress or something like that, you know. So I think I played like 2 or 3 Teferis, and they each one of them got countered. So that kind of just blew me out of the water. I just couldn't come back from there. I think he plays Shark Typhoon twice as a 1/1 and a 2/2, and just beat me down with that. I just couldn't. I wasn't drawing any removal. I drew a couple counter spells, I think, but I wasn't drawing any marches. I wasn't drawing any prismatic endings. I did take out a lot of my creature removal though, so that's granted. I took out like the Solitudes. I took out Dam and stuff like that, but I didn't expect to just get beat down by by a couple of shark tokens, I guess, that I couldn't really deal with. So yeah, and then he just kept memory delusion again with the million mana that he had opened at the end of the turn. So yeah, he too owes me there, unfortunately. I think I just need more practice against that deck at that point, or I was just misplaying, or I was playing optimal, and definitely I got punished for that one. So that was a loss for me. So that was my loss for today. And yeah, and then finally game 4 comes around, and it's getting pretty late at night, you know. So I asked my opponent if he wanted to split, but he politely declines. He wants to play it out, and you know, I agree. You know, it's fine if to play it out. So yeah, we start off the game. I think he goes first, and he plays. I think he plays and fetches a Verdant Catacomb into like a shock land and goes Yawgmoth. So immediately I know, okay, I see Yawgmoth. It's the Yawgmoth deck, and so far my win rate against Yawgmoth has been 50-50. Last couple of weeks I've been losing to Yawgmoth. A couple of weeks before that I was winning against Yawgmoth. So and this week it's just kind of like, you know, maybe. So like my match against Yawgmoth is a 50-50. It just depends. In my head and from my experience, if they can resolve a Grist, then the game is basically over for me. Like I can't remove Grist. It's really difficult. Anyways, the game goes on. We go back and forth a lot. I was surprisingly like, it was a neck-to-neck game. Like, he was able to get out 2 Grist. I was able to remove both of them. He was able to get out Yawgmoth. I was able to dam his whole board. He drew like 3 cards off of that. I was behind on mana. But he was at like maybe 12 health to my 15. So I was relatively healthy. But he was running a little low on health. And at certain points, we were just top decking lands. But the cool thing is I had the Hall of Storm Giant on the board. So at one point I just animate the Hall of Storm Giant, smack him for 7, so he's down to 5 now. And then I think I also have eventually get out a Snapcaster, so I think it's swinging for like a 9. So I think he was like down to like 3 health or something like that. And so he had to try to defend against both my Hall and my Snapcaster, and I think that was it. I think he gets out 1 creature, but he couldn't. I think I also had a Celestial Colony too, so I think my options were fine. Like I could animate the either one, it wouldn't have mattered. So I think that's how I beat him, just by beating him down with the the man lands because we were essentially out of resources. We didn't have anything left. Like I tried resolving like Teferi. He was able to just remove it by attacking it. He gets out Grist, and I removed it. He gets out Yawgmoth. I board wipe, and yeah, it was just back and forth. Like it was crazy. It was a good game. So I won purely with the man lands there. So if I haven't recommended the man lands, I highly recommend playing man lands in your control deck. It's a good way to close out the game, or especially if you have nothing left to do with your mana, then just start swinging away. And both are really good clocks. So there you go. So yeah, game 2, we sided in. I think I know for sure I sided an extra dam. I think I sided maybe I side Rest in Peace for sure. Marches, these 3. Now this was a controversial side for me. In the middle of the game, I realized that this doesn't counter Grist, because I think Grist, when you cast it, is a creature, and this obviously doesn't counter a creature. So in the middle of the game, when I was sideboarding, I wasn't really thinking about it. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna side in Beetle and stop Grist from coming out. But I realized, I think in the middle of the game, I was like, oh shit, Grist has got that extra effect where it's not a creature on the board or when it's casting. And I was like, ah, crap, this is not gonna work. But I did end up using this to like counter like Convoked and Eldritch Evolution and stuff like that. So it's not like the worst card to play, but I definitely would have not sided this in against them, given that I know that now. I'm probably better off with like a Subtlety or something like that. So like if you have a flyer, you can just swing in at Grist and just remove him that way. Or if they cast him, you just cast the Subtlety and try to remove him from the stack. Granted, if they Eldritch Evolution or Convoke into the Grist, because Grist is a creature in your deck, which is kind of cool. You can play him directly from the deck with those tutors, and so Subtlety won't do too much against that. But it's still a nice card to just be able to fly over all of their Undying and bugs and insects and just swing into the Grist. So definitely think I should have played this over the Dovin's Veto for sure. But the rest of the package pretty standard. Farewell, or sorry, not Farewell. The Prismatic and the Marches were super good. Like they were able to hit his grass. He was able to hit his Young Wolf. It was able to hit his Grist. Well, not March, but Prismatic Ending was able to hit his Grist. Stuff like that. But anyway, so we go into game 2. He mulls again to 5. And I think at the end of the game, we talked about it. I think he gets 2 one land hand, so that was a little unfortunate. But yeah, so he plays like Young Wolf, and in turn 2 he goes into Birds of Paradise with 2 lands. My turn, or he thought seizes me on turn 2. He goes 2 lands, thought seize and Bird of Paradise. So he has 2 lands plus Bird and Young Wolf on the board, and then thought seize me. So he sees my hand and he decides to take the counter spell. But my hand was pretty stacked. Like it was a pretty good hand against him. I think I had Dam, I had Prismatic, I had Counterspell, and I had Archmage Charm. So those are the 4 main spells I think that he saw on turn 2. And the rest of my hand was lands. So he decided to take the Counterspell, which is fine, So my turn 2 was kind of weak. I didn't really do anything. I just played a land and pass. But yeah, so he plays. I think he misses a land drop or something, but he has Bird of Paradise, so not like it really matters. So then he goes passes over to me. So he knows I have an Archmage Charm. I play my land, I pass. He goes to him. I forget what he does, but he passes back to me, and then I go Archmage Charm the Bird of Paradise. Now he was gonna try to Convoke it, I think, or Eldritch Evolution it. But then he realized if he did Eldritch Evolution the bird for 0, I think he was going to pay 0 because he had the bird plus 2 lands. So he would have paid 0 to get rid of the birds to get the Dryad Harbor Elf, or the 1/1 elf land thingy. But then he realized I had Damn on in my hand, so he decided to ask if he could take back his his move, and I'm okay with that. Like that's fine, Like he thought sees me, so he does know what my hand is. And while it was technically a misplay on his part, I'm okay with him taking it back because I actually want the birds. Like in my head, like if regardless, like I think he let me take something back earlier or something like that. I forget, but I'm not too. It's local, so it's kind of a friendly match anyways. So whatever. It's not a big deal. So he takes it back. I steal his bird. My turn 4, I play a land, and I use the bird and my 4 lands to get to cast the Teferi, the 5-mana Teferi, and then basically that's where the game kind of shifts in my favor heavily, because then he can't get rid of the Teferi now. He's down on lands, down's on like 2 to 3 cards now, or actually like 4 cards because I stole his bird, and so at this point I think I pump out like I start pumping out like the Emperor and like having mana up to counter, and I think he just scoops from there without being able to put much of a fight up. Even if he did get out a grist onto the board, my board was already pretty good and well equipped to kind of deal with any potential threats he would have put out. And so yeah, I take the game from there. So yeah, 2-0 the Yawgmoth player. Now I'm gonna say it's probably would have been he probably would have had game 2 maybe if he drew a decent hand. He probably would have ran away with it going first, because going first against a Yawgmoth going first is real good because they can set up their they set up their mana dorks, and be ahead of you on mana and able to start pumping out threats and get value off of grist and stuff like that. And being a control player, if you're behind on mana, it's really terrible because you're a reactive deck. And if they're like ahead on mana by like turn 2 or 3, like they have 2 lands plus 2 dorks, and you're only on your first land, it kind of sucks, So I think if he had a good hand, he might have taken game 2, and we probably would have went into game 3. But yeah, he didn't get so lucky with his hand there. So yeah, he ends up scooping to me. So yeah, that was my record. I went 3-1 and got 3rd place, and was able to get like some store credit. And yeah, I ended up using most of my store credit to buy a Yawgmoth's Will. I think I had like $60-$70 of store credit because I won a few times, or I got topped a few times at the store, and their payouts are pretty decent for like first, second, third, and fourth place and stuff like that. So yeah, I ended up able to spend my credit to buy Yawgmoth's Will for my EDH deck, and yeah. So I'd say it was a pretty good day for me yesterday. Had fun, had some pretty great matchups. Learned quite a few things about about trying to read my opponent. So I read my opponent, the Wilderness Rec deck, completely wrong, and that I got super punished for that in game 1, and just game 2 it was just not my deck was not performing up to what I wanted to do. I was missing colors, or I was just not able to cast stuff I wanted. But that's the the thing with playing three different colors. But I like playing 3 different colors. It's always kind of fun, and tough to build a good 3-color deck, and I kind of like that challenge. A lot of people say I could just convert this to a blue-white deck, which like I remove like all the lands, I remove like six or 7 black cards, and convert this to blue-white, but that'd be kind of boring. I don't really want to play blue-white that much. I like my black cards, and I like black mana, so it's the 1 mana color that I will never almost get rid of in any of my decks, is black mana. So but yeah, so that was a good game, and that's basically my story for today. And on Friday I'll probably head out and play some more Modern. Maybe I wanted to try Pioneer this Friday, But since my other friends are coming back into the game and they wanted to play modern, so I'll be going to play modern on Friday, instead of Pioneer, and so maybe Saturday I'll be doing something else. I'll be playing either maybe Yu-Gi-Oh or maybe another modern game if there's something where that plays modern on Saturdays. If not, we'll probably just hang out at my friend's house and play like EDH or something like that. Anyways, that's it. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time.